record. Now let me go on Facebook.
You're going to catch some attention today in that outfit, just saying.
Well, people are pretty much used to me being
Being crazy.
This, like, I pretty much live in this or one of my other costumes, like for the entire.
So
I've got lots of different Christmas ones, so. All right. Woo! Woo-hoo! Guess what? You get a double dose of Jilly Jones today. It's Jilly Jones again, and with the Adventures of Jilly Jones in GSD. And I am super excited because it's Wednesday the 15th. We got 10 days left until Christmas if you celebrate. Hence, you can see that I celebrate. You know, the elf. I was calling it this morning, Lissa. I was calling it selfie with the elfie.
So fun.
So let me introduce you. Let's get started. I have an amazing guest on this morning. Her and I met through networking, and like, you know, when you meet people and you just know you have that instant connection, and you think a lot alike. And then we also have some other commonality with her husband and what I used to do. So let's welcome Lissa Figgins to the show. Woo, welcome.
Yay. So glad to be here, and so fun to see how you're having fun. I literally just recorded a podcast about having more fun. So you are living this too, you're living this out. This is fantastic.
Well, I want to get to what you do, but let's talk a little bit about that, because having fun is so key. And I know as a coach, and you've got it written down, life and biz priorities coach, but like overall, what do you think about fun and all those kinds of things?
So here's the thing. Honestly, if I'm completely honest and just being vulnerable, fun is usually at the bottom of my priority list. And because I'm a doer, and when you're a coach, and I was a former educator, and I'm married to some first responders, it's all about doing and action and, and those types of things. Right. And so I used to feel like I don't have time for fun, and it just wasn't important. It was going to take away from these other areas that I wanted to invest in. But I will say I'm recovering from that and working on that, because I've been using this new lifestyle framework that I use with my clients, and fun is one of the areas that's on there. And what I'm realizing is if I'm not having fun, then I'm not as effective in my life. I'm not as effective as a coach, as a mom, as a wife, as a community member and volunteer, and so I've been intentionally incorporating fun into my life. And you know what? It's really fun. And you can make time for whatever you want to make time for. It's all a matter of priorities, right? So it's on the list. It is on the list.
Absolutely. And my philosophy is, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. So that's the reason. And it's kind of funny because this friend of mine this morning, just as a side note, he was dressed as Santa, and he's got a new dog, and the dog saw him dressed as Santa and started barking and going crazy. Now I have 3 dogs, and they're so used to seeing me in costume that they're like, oh, just another costume mommy. Yeah. All right, so Lissa, why don't we get started? Why don't we talk a little bit more about you, what makes you so unique, and what gifts you bring to this world. And I'm turning it over to you. So floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I love connecting with women. I love connecting, especially with women after 40, because that's when I really had a shift happen in my life. Where I woke up, it wasn't even my birthday yet, but I remember waking up early, kind of like when that calendar turned to that year. I remember looking in the mirror and going, oh my gosh, what happened? Right. I remember looking at that bulge around the middle going, and I was like, I don't think I really like the direction this is going. And I'm looking at a lot of people around me who, time and gravity plan is not the direction I want to go. And so I decided I wanted to be intentional about my health and my wellness, but there was this other nagging question that was going on in my head. And you know what it was? As I looked in the mirror, I was like, and who is that girl? Because I was, I still had kids at home. I'd been married since, right out of college. And so life for my 20s and 30s had been really focused on doing all the things in those stages of life. And so I had gotten to this point where I literally was just in survival mode. I was telling my fun friend this morning, like I would go somewhere with my kids and like hide behind a book because I didn't want to have to talk to somebody and I didn't want to have to like engage or do anything. I just wanted to sit in the background. And then I would just be like, okay, and where's the next place I have to show up? I wasn't having any fun and I didn't know who I was and what God had gifted me to do. And so as I was thinking about 40, the question came up because I have some really good friends that we get together once a year. So we were all turning 40 at the same time. And it was just kind of like, what do you want this next decade to look like? And so it was then that I made this decision and just said, you know what, I'm not going to just sit back and let more time just pass and then, not know who I am and what my purpose is, why God's put me here and what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm going to start pursuing that. And to be honest, that was a scary decision. And I had no idea what that meant. Because, my husband was the one who was always out working. Like you said, being in law enforcement, he had a crazy schedule. So it wasn't like I had all this free time to go explore and figure out who I was. So it just started with personal growth and it started with getting people around me who were also growing. And it started with just being intentional and trying and just like figuring out who am I. And so over the past, I'm almost 49. So when the calendar turns, I'll be 49 next year. So not quite to the big 50, but like over this past 9 years, it's really been this journey. And the theme of priorities keeps coming up. So for me, it started with the wellness piece, right? Make that a priority. So we know we have to eat healthy. We know we want to move more, right? We know we need to reduce stress and we need to get enough sleep and drink more water and all those things. And if they're not priorities, they don't happen. And so as I was having conversations with women after 40, this theme kept coming up because honestly, you know what we were doing? We were putting ourselves in the back burner, right? Because we were taking care of all the things. And this is a first responder. So whether you're a first responder or you're taking care of a household or you're just busy and distracted with life, it's really easy to put us, not only our wellness, but also who we are on the back burner and just not give it that attention and intention. And so as I had more and more conversations and as I was learning and growing, I was like, oh my goodness, women need to stop doing this or the time is going to keep just going faster and faster. And then we're going to run out. And what do we have that we've done and given? So started, working with women on how can we be more intentional? How can we think let's push pause and rethink our priorities. What really matters to you? Because so often we say we have priorities, but then we don't do them, right? And so there's this gap between what I say I want and what I'm actually spending time, money, or energy and focus on.
There's so many things that you just talked about there that are so key for people to really like pick up that are listening is the fact that number one, priorities. Okay, like I do a lot of coaching as well around like high priority, low priority in your calendar. And it's like looking at those because people who have, low priorities are destined to work for people who have high priorities. That's just the bottom line. And it's like, okay, what is it that I want to accomplish today? Because again, being a first responder, and many of you know that I was a police officer for 10 years, there is no guarantee of tomorrow. So it's like, that's why I chose to, like have fun and like live my life every day as if it was my last, because you don't know if tomorrow is promised, right? So that includes doing high priority things, having fun, but self-care is not selfish. And that was the other thing that you talked about. Like, it's so critical. And people, I know you've heard me say this over and over again, but maybe one of these times it's going to stick with you listening out there that you got to start taking care of yourself first, because otherwise you're no good to anyone else. So right. When you discovered your purpose, because I'm a big one about people living their purpose and passion, like how has that shifted life for you? Like what, like you were here and now you're here, like kind of talk a little bit more about that journey.
Sure. Well, what I love, so my theme is repurposed. And, and so often in life, we take these experiences, maybe sometimes they're negative experiences. Sometimes it's something that happened to us that we really had to grow and learn from. Sometimes they're great things and we repurpose them and use them in a new way. And when you do that, like your experience of life, it just grows exponentially. And so that's what's happened. It was like, once I started really getting clear on, hey, like I'm focused on priorities and helping these group of women in this stage of life to rethink their priorities. Not only did it challenge me, right, to do that on my own, because I will be the first to say I'm not perfect, right? And I think you would admit that as a coach as well. We're not coaching because we are doing this perfectly. We're on the journey, maybe a few steps ahead, maybe we're a long ways ahead, but we're inviting others to come on that journey and not wait, right, and not just sit on the sidelines. And so it's really just deepened who I am and my experience and my intentionality. It's brought amazing women across my path. That's one of my favorite things, is getting to connect to people like you and, and others who are also living out their purpose, right? And it's giving me something to grow towards. So I just did an event a couple of days ago. We were looking back on the past year, and we were kind of talking about this whole idea that, we're looking back and then we're looking ahead. And if we don't have goals that we're going towards, it's like trying to ride a bicycle and stay balanced, staying in one place. It doesn't work. You can't stay balanced, and you can't, stand upright, and it's not going to be a very fun bike ride if you're just trying to stay in one place, right? And so we are goal-seeking machines. Like, that's how our brain is wired. And so by, what I'm finding is, as I'm working towards these goals and asking, how can I serve in a better way? How can I increase, my impact and the number of women that I get to serve around their priorities? It's giving me those things to work towards. And that gets me up every morning, like super fired up to, to do what we do.
Right. Serving and supporting and helping other people. And that's a journey. And you're absolutely right. I don't put myself above like anybody else. Like, I'm a journey. I'm a, lifelong learner, but what I'm really good at is like taking that information and then listening and working with other people. And successful people have coaches because of the accountability factor. See, because we know that if we leave it up to ourselves and our own devices, nothing will get done, right? So
No,
like,
oh my goodness.
yeah, and you made another really good point that like, it's so funny how themes start to happen, and if you're listening to this instead of watching it and you hear the jingles, it's because I look like I'm a 6-foot elf today in like my jingle outfit, so you're probably picking up the jingle noise. The year in review. Okay, so like, sometimes we are so quick to go, right, like, okay, 2021 is almost over. We're going to set up all our stuff for 2022. Are you taking the time to look back and reflect what you did get done in 2021, how it worked, what didn't work, and how you're going to set up 2022? And I know that you do that as a priorities coach, because here's the honest to God truth. Sometimes for most of us, we go to the place of what didn't get done versus really celebrating and looking at what we did get done. So, I mean, looking back is so important. And, do you have your clients doing that?
We do. And we did that together on an event, and I'm happy to share the replay with anyone. They can go to lissafiggins.com/year and they can get the replay on that. But one of the things we did as well is we looked at the negative things. We looked at the goals we missed. We looked at the hard things in the past year, and we said, what are the lessons? What can we learn from this moving forward? And I think that was really a mindset shift for some of the gals who were on the live event, of just saying, wow, I have a tendency to feel bad about myself when I look back at what I didn't do, or what wasn't what I expected or what I wanted. But how can I learn from this? Because that's only going to help us move forward, right, as we go into this new year. And I love that you said about like having a coach, because my favorite quote, can I share this?
Yes.
Never DIY your greatest priorities. And then I like to add on there, every successful woman needs a coach, right? Like, we DIY, all kinds of things that are really, really important. And then we go get help for the little things, like getting our nails done and getting our hair done and maybe cleaning our house, or like sending out some emails. We ask for help with those little things. So why do we think we're going to take on these big priorities of our, our family, or our field of work, or our finances, or, our fitness and things like that? Or like, we cut corners, we make excuses, we let ourselves off the hook, we quietly quit on ourselves, or we never even start, right? And so that accountability piece and just having other people on the journey with us makes all the difference, like exponential growth, right?
It does. And, again, there's a couple of key things that, like you said in there as well, too, because sometimes it's start before you're ready. And it's like, if you wait and wait and wait and wait until you have everything all figured out, unfortunately, you'll be 95 years old on your deathbed, regretting what you didn't get done, because nobody ever is like
Yeah.
upset about what they did do. They're upset what they didn't get done. And so
Yeah.
like that's really key. And I love that. And yeah, I would love to watch that replay because I think that that is it. Everything that happens to us in life happens for a reason and a purpose. And
Yes.
it's like, you know, if you want to say failing forward, a lot of times I don't even like use the word fail. I think, okay, well, that's just something that was an idea that didn't work. Okay, so what else is there? Because there's an infinite amount of solutions for
Yes.
anything out there that you are facing. Sometimes you just have to go through a few of them before you figure it out.
Yeah. And let's be honest, where we are right now is the consequence of the choices we've made up until now, right? So good or bad, where we are, the results we currently have, whether it's in our life or our business or whatever, is because of that. And so the good news is where we're going to be one day will be the result and the consequences of the choices we have yet to make. And so that's where we can choose to live repurposed. We can choose to rethink our priorities. We can choose to say, you know what, I'm going to stop saying this is a priority. I'm actually going to take daily action. I'm actually going to look at this goal every day to make sure that it's on my mind. And I am going to be accountable to myself and to others to really live out those priorities. Because, you know, the three places you go to see if something's a priority for somebody, you look at their calendar, you look at their bank account, and you look at their thoughts, if we could write them out, right? What are the things that you're investing your time, your money, and your energy on? Those are your priorities. And oftentimes it's all the things that don't matter that, like you said, at the end of the day or the end of life, we're going to wish we wouldn't have wasted all that time, energy, and money on those things.
And you know what, I love what you just talked about there because it's instant feedback. Like
Yeah.
looking at your calendar. Okay, well, you know, where's my time being spent? Well, if it's not on those priorities, instant feedback. If you don't have the money that you want, instant feedback, like, okay, then something has to shift, you know, your energy. Like, again, all these things, it's just always about looking and reflecting. And this isn't designed for beat up mode. It's like,
Right.
okay, you know, this is where I'm at because from this point on, any given moment, you can make the decision that it's going to be different. You're only a decision away. And
Right.
then making that decision and sticking with it is, you know, is the key.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I know you and I are using the tool right now. What I love is that every day we're tracking our action steps. And it's so cool to look and go, oh my gosh, I've taken I forget what I'm at, like 290 something action steps that I've taken towards my goals. Like, that's amazing, right? And imagine after a year, if you took 3 action steps towards your top priorities, that's over 1,000 action steps in a year. Where would you be, right? You wouldn't still
Right.
be in
And that is something to
another new
celebrate.
year. Exactly.
Yes. Yes. And that's again, like that gives you the opportunity to, again, to celebrate what did get done and
Mhm.
stop looking at what didn't get done. You know, I heard this very interesting statistic last week. I was at a presentation and this woman was a hypnotherapist and she was talking about the subconscious, which I love delving into the subconscious, right? Because how we operate is all based out of our subconscious. But she said that, you know, we have, you know, tens of thousands of thoughts like every single like day, you know, just going through. And 70% of those can be negative, the negative self-talk. Now, of course, for me, maybe it's only 50% because like I have really worked on this whole like idea of positivity and like working on my self-esteem and my self-worth and all those kinds of things. But think about that, 70%. So is it any reason why we look at what didn't get done versus celebrating what did?
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
Yes.
You can't be upset about not having the results that you didn't put the work in for.
Right,
And
right.
so
Well, what
often
would
we
you
do that.
say if you like looked over everything and there's been a lot of nuggets that you've shared, but like if you had to narrow it down to one thing, what would you say is your big key to success?
So I think my big key is another quote that I love. Where you are is just where you are. It's not who you are, right? You always have a choice so that you can at any point say, you know what? I'm deciding today is the day and I'm going to move forward and make this a priority. And it can change everything in a moment. And it doesn't come from outside of us. It doesn't come from circumstances or other people or the conditions that are outside of us. It comes from in here and us deciding to do that, right?
Absolutely. So how is the best way for people to connect with you? We're going to put it in the comments section so that people, can take advantage. I mean, thank you for offering that free replay, but people want to reach out to you because listen, I am all about win-win. Like if I, don't float your boat, which for a lot of people, they're going to see this. They're like, oh my God, that crazy Jilly Jones is not my thing. But, Lissa, is. So like, how would they connect with you? How can you support them? How can you help them?
Yeah, thanks for that opportunity. So I'm Lissa Figgins. So it's Lissa, it's Melissa without the ME because it's not about me. And then Figgins with 2 G's. So Lissa Figgins on any social platform. So you can send me a message or look me up there. My website is lissafiggins.com. And I've got a little gift that I love to share. It's a daily priorities planner where it takes the 7 key areas of our life and gets us thinking about what do I want in these areas and how does this fit into my day so I can make it a priority. So that is on my website, but you can also put in lissafiggins.com/daily plan to grab that and start using that, right? And decide today is going to be the day that I make my priorities true priorities.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you for, offering that amazing gift because sometimes, and listen, I'm always telling, listen, people, like, we are just not out here, like we like to have fun and we like to have casual conversation. However, there's a point for all of this, and it's to help you to figure out what you resonate with and, to start making some things a priority. And again, once again, it's not going to happen. Like you're not going to have these huge changes overnight. It takes a little bit of time. I'm 50, I'm 53. So it didn't take me, it took me a while to get to this point. And it's going to take me a while to continue to, build and discover and grow with what I'm doing. So Lissa, thank you so much again for being on the show today. It was so awesome to have you. And any parting thoughts, any words that you'd like to share before we leave?
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. You are amazing. I love what you do. I love how you're fun and you're no nonsense. And you really, truly, even with all the fun and all that stuff, like I know your heart is just to care for people. And I think that speaks a lot about you. And, and it's really about helping others to live out what God has called them to do, right? Because they're figuring out these priorities and how to get those things done and make them happen. So I think that's fantastic. And let's keep sharing this message.
Yes, absolutely. And that's it. I mean, like attracts like. And so when you meet those people across your path that that you've got the message and that, you just want to share it with the world. So I am so grateful that you were on today and had some flexibility with your calendar because this elf kind of messed up, but we made it work today. So again, for all of you that are listening and watching, this is Julie Jones with the Adventures of Julie Jones. And GSD, of course, that stands for Get Shit Done. And I am so grateful for each and every one of you to be, tuning in. And just make sure to have a productive, fun, prioritized, get shit done kind of day. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Julie.